Hey, hi, welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real with Serene.
Hi everyone. In the Bible, St. Paul says, fight the good fight. Now these words could mean any number of things, but the question that we want to ask today is there a fight or a battle or a fighting spirit involved in your Christian walk? The simple answer to this question is yes and no. Okay, I agree. If the answer is yes and no, then it's probably not a simple answer, but that is the answer, and let me explain why it's both yes and no. In previous messages that we've listened to, we focused on the importance of carrying a grateful heart, being grateful for every little thing in life, thanking God, being thankful to God for all the beauty that is around us, for the kindness and love that is around us, mostly for His kindness, for His goodness, for His love, for His providence. This kind of gratitude creates a thankful heart and a thankful spirit. In a previous message, we also discussed the importance of gratitude in prayer, how we must incorporate gratitude into the prayers with our emotional energy, and how that is in fact an effective way of manifesting faith and manifesting what you are praying for. Now there is a reason why I reflect on these two messages, or this concept of gratitude, right at the beginning of this discussion on fighting and having a fighting spirit, because being full of gratitude, being full of thankfulness, being full of good cheer, being full of happiness may not always be on the same page as having a fighting spirit or entering a battle. And this is why I said the answer is yes and no. The answer to the question, do you need a fighting spirit in your walk, in your Christian walk? Is there a battle in your Christian walk? The answer is yes and no. A practical way to look at some of this is to think about physical exercise and the options we have for exercising or for doing something physical activity. Or do we have to do a physical activity? Do we have to go to the gym? Do we have to run a marathon? Do we have to climb a mountain? And you realize the answer is yes and no. It's not compulsory, but it would be beneficial. Then again, a lot of us would rather just go to the gym and get some exercise than actually enlist in a marathon or Ironman or climbing a mountain or something that is so much more harder to do. So finally, the question boils down to you. What do you want to do? Do you want to live at the level you're living and very incrementally, very slowly keep moving up and keep moving forward in your Christian walk? Or do you want to face a battle? Do you want to climb a mountain? Do you want to conquer something? Or is it not even an option because the battle has come to you, the problem has come to you, and now you have to fight it and you have to conquer it? Living in gratitude, having an attitude of gratitude with you at all times, and having an attitude of gratitude in prayer, using your emotional energy in prayer, focusing gratitude into your prayer. All of this we've discussed before. These are really good ways. It's the best way, if you like, to fight the normal battles we have, to fight the normal difficulties we have, the day-to-day circumstances of life, the frustrations, the delays we go through. We need to get things done. We need people to respond to us. We need transactions to happen. We need shipments to come. We need things to happen depending on where you are or what you are involved with. Basically, whatever it is, whether it's a business or employment, or even if you're looking after your family, ultimately there are certain things you want to see happening. These things are at the forefront of your mind, and taking these things to God in prayer, being grateful, knowing that His watchful, loving eyes are on us and that He will attend to all of these things, consistently praying about it, consistently knowing and believing that God is going to undertake for those problems, is definitely the best way to fight battles and fight all the circumstances you have to face at that level of living. Now, in terms of the practical illustration we used, I would like to compare that with maybe going to the gym, getting your regular exercise, being healthy, and living a good, strong, healthy life. However, what about if you are a little more ambitious? And you want to take big steps in life. You want to go from point A to not from point A to point B, but from point A to point V. Okay, V for victory, if you like. But the point is, you want to take big steps. You want to take large strides. You want to see victory in so many different things. You're ambitious. What about if suddenly you find yourself in some very difficult circumstances? You didn't ask for it, you didn't expect it, but there it is. And you have to face it. It's not normal life anymore. It's some very difficult situation. It's a common phrase that drastic situations call for drastic measures. And the reality is that if you are ambitious and you want to take things at a completely higher level, or if you're facing a difficulty that is unusually hard and oppressing, now you need the fighting spirit. Now you need to fight that good fight. Once again, through our illustration, I would like to now compare this to running the marathon, to running the Ironman, climbing a mountain. It's not the day-to-day life of going to the gym and being healthy, but you are selecting, you are choosing, or even if you have not chosen by virtue of circumstance, difficult challenges have come to you. You have set your sights on difficult challenges, on taking large strides, on overcoming something that is a little bit more than the kind of challenges we come face to face with at a day-to-day level. This particular kind of dynamic is definitely applicable to anyone with an ambitious spirit, to an entrepreneur who wants to see success, to someone who believes in a talent that they have and they just want to focus on it and they want to develop it and they want to achieve something with it. All of these are extraordinary challenges. Some of them may not seem very extraordinary to you because they're commonplace now, and a lot of people are taking part in this kind of challenge of being an entrepreneur, of being an artist. But the fact is, we're reaching out for a higher level of achievement. Or if some difficult circumstances come to you, which you didn't invite or didn't expect, and you have to deal with a problem that seems quite big and you're not sure how to handle it, once again, you're faced with a big challenge. Now here again, guys, it's entirely up to the individual. If you want to fight this great challenge with gratitude and thanksgiving and worship, and if you think that that is what your spirit is more aligned with, and that is the approach you want to take, that's perfectly fine. So I think it's important to recognize that just thanksgiving, gratitude, and worship is an extremely powerful way of bringing God's love and grace and providence into any situation, into any battle, into any challenge, and staying on that very positivistic note with a thankful heart, not letting yourself be disturbed, not letting yourself be worried, but just simply praising God, worshiping God, and letting His power take over, take control, and win the victory for you. There is so much biblical precedence to this principle. There is so much precedence or other experience in my own life to this principle. And if your spirit aligns with this, and if this is how you want to fight the challenges that you have, then this is how you should do it. St. Paul says, fight the good fight. And I started by asking the question, is a fighting spirit necessary? Is there a battle to which you must take a fighting spirit? And the answer is yes and no. I have explained why it is no, because rather than having a very fighting spirit or a battle cry in your heart, you can just be full of thanksgiving and gratitude and you can win your battles. However, let's consider why I say yes and no, and why the answer can also be yes to facing these challenges and having a fighting spirit. If you are an ambitious person, if you are an entrepreneur who's ambitious and wants to see success, an artist who just wants to believe in the talent that you have and achieve something with that, if you're faced with some difficult circumstances that you didn't expect, you can also choose to have a fighting spirit in order to overcome your challenges and to get victory. whatever that victory means for you. God has given us free will, and within the scope of that free will is the option for you to focus on the challenge, to focus on the victory that you need, and to pray about it, and to just focus and pray with a kind of a determination and a kind of a focus that is so intense that now, even though you are living in a kind of gratitude, the gratitude lifestyle fades away for a little time, and suddenly what you find is that your entire being is focused on this one goal, and you're praying, and you're taking it to heaven, you're talking to God about it, you are focused on it every day, and of course your life is still on that foundation of gratitude, but in terms of the emotions you feel, there could be a small shift. Rather than feeling gratitude all the time, now you begin to feel a certain kind of intensity within you. An intensity that is to do with the focus and the attention and the determination you are bringing to the fight that you want to fight, to the battle that you want to overcome, to the challenge that you want to face. From a biblical perspective, and looking for biblical precedents of this principle, I believe that there are several instances in the life of Jesus himself where this principle came to play. If you think about the time he saw the church, or the synagogue as it was at the time, full of vendors, and he did not like that, he acquired some rope, went to wherever he stays, took a whole day to quietly weave this rope into a kind of a whip, came back the next day, and using this whip, he turned the tables of all these vendors, and he literally lashed out at all of them and asked them to clear out from the synagogue. Now, this could be an instance of Jesus deciding to do something that is rather unusual, giving his attention, focus, determination to it, putting in the necessary preparation, holding that determination, and executing it. Once again, there is no question about the fact that the foundation of Jesus' life is based on gratitude to the Father, but I'm also trying to focus on the feelings that we have, the feelings that we go through when we need to get something done. And when Jesus needed to clear the synagogue from all these vendors, and when he took a whole day to prepare a whip and come back the next day and create a serious commotion there and just drive out all the vendors from the synagogue, it seems to be an act of determination, focus, intensity, and something that is done through sheer willpower. Another such instance in the life of Jesus himself is, of course, the crucifixion. If we look at Jesus the night before the crucifixion, it was such a daunting task, it was such a difficult assignment that we see a certain kind of intensity come over him. He is focused, he is intense, he knows what he needs to do, there's a determination in his soul to do it. He understands that it's not something easy that he needs to do. The Bible says that he was sweating so much the night before that his sweat was like blood. Some commentators would say that he actually sweated blood. I do not know, and it's not important at this point. What we are focusing on is the fact that there was a severe amount of focus, determination, and intensity going into that final day where Jesus knew it was going to be traumatic and he had to be prepared to face it. I believe that the greatest challenge for Jesus going into that very difficult Friday was on many different levels. I don't think there was just one difficulty. Sometimes I think that the difficulty in terms of what we perceive the physical pain to be may have been the least of Jesus's problems. Perhaps the greatest difficulty Jesus had may have been that with one word, with one decision, with one simple whisper, he could just destroy the entire Roman army, or he could just make the people who are hurting him drop dead. He could do anything with just a single word, and yet he would have to hold that word back and take that persecution and flogging and crucifixion. Perhaps another difficulty would be that there was some kind of separation between the Father and the Son on the cross, something we don't even understand. But whatever it is, the fact is that Friday was very difficult, and Jesus had to face it with intensity and determination. There are also several examples from the lives of the apostles. As we know, every single apostle, except perhaps for John, was finally persecuted for a long time and finally executed. What comes to mind right now is that St. Paul, was stoned to death, they thought, but he didn't die. And after they left him for dead, he quietly got up again and recovered, and once again he started his ministry. There is a section in the Bible that St. Paul lists all the sufferings and the persecutions he has gone through. I believe he says he has been flogged several times, shipwrecked several times, stoned at least once or twice. Enduring all this persecution, enduring this traumatic physical punishments, there must have been times when St. Paul needed to be full of determination, full of a sense of purpose, full of intensity, knowing in himself that he is about something, that he is doing something, and that is not going to waver from his mission no matter what. So, in your Christian walk, when you fight the good fight, is there a place in that fight for a fighting spirit? The answer is yes and no. You don't have to. You can fight everything through gratitude and thanksgiving. And if you are inclined to do so, that might very well be the best way to handle things. However, if you are trying to take big strides, if you're ambitious, if you're determined, then there might be times in your life when you just want to be full of intensity in prayer, full of determination in prayer, single-minded in prayer, and look to heaven, look to God for the victory and for the outcome that you need. When we discuss this particular approach to fighting the good fight, we have to absolutely take into account the biggest pitfall, the biggest problem of this approach, which is that you will try to accomplish it in your strength and not in God's strength. Now, this is the biggest problem of trying this approach to win your battles. This pitfall is so dangerous, it is so destructive, it is so harmful to your Christian walk. I would even say that if you cannot avoid it, then do not even use this method. Do not even go into this method of intensity and determination and being of a single mind and fighting for the challenges, for whatever it is that you want to achieve, being single-minded about it in prayer and just being absolutely determined to see the outcome happen. But you have to avoid the pitfall of suddenly making this your battle and thinking you are the one who is fighting it and you are going to make it happen and you are going to have your strength to overcome it and that you are going to be the person who is able to make it happen, that the strength is coming from you. Now, if you fall into that place, you have almost fallen out of grace. I would say that this way of fighting with intensity and determination, I would recommend it only for people, only if you feel you're mature enough in grace to be able to be single-minded and fight, but not take the fight into your own hands. Now, if you tell me, but how can I do that? How can I be single-minded and fight and not take the fight into my own hands? Well, if you have to ask me that question, then you're not prepared for this way of fighting and do not use it. But if you want to know what the process involves, well, what the process involves is being single-minded about the outcome that you want to see, taking it to heaven, believing in God for the outcome, and just focusing in prayer and in your heart and in your relationship with God for the outcome that you are looking for. There may be so many examples I can give, but what comes to my mind is something that happened very recently, whereas there was a company that owed me some money, a significant amount. Now, for various reasons, I had a lot of power over this company. I'm not going to get into the details, but just sufficient to say that I had a lot of power over this. It's not my company, it's another company. It's actually not even in this country, it's in another country. But I had a lot of power over it, and therefore, since they owed me money, I sent an email. I said, would be grateful if you can settle this. And now in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if they don't settle this, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, A, B, C, D. And every time my mind goes there, I kind of repent and say, Lord, no. I'm determined that they should give me what they owe me, but if my mind is even starting to get into all the ways that I can use my power to twist their arm and get the outcome I want, then that is not a reliance on God's Spirit and on God's grace. So every time my mind slipped into that, I almost literally had to just stop and say, God, no, I'm sorry. I'm determined. I'm single-minded about the outcome that I need. But Jesus, please, I'm sorry. I'm not going to twist anybody's arm. I'm not going to try and do things my way. I'm going to depend on your grace, for your grace to give me that outcome that I need. I'm happy to say that I was very successful in this particular endeavor, and just within a couple of weeks, everything was sorted out. Now, the fact is, we do live in a world where using force, the force that is within us, is a very normal thing for anyone and everyone to get their things done. A lot of people use their force, the power that is within them, to make people listen to them, to control people, to get ahead and get things done and achieve what they want to achieve. It is all around us. Many of the most successful people in this world seem to have achieved their achievements through that process. So I'm not going to deny its existence, its possibility, or even the fact that sometimes it can be very effective. I think it's quite fair to say that this is the norm for human behavior. But as children of God, as children born from above, we are making a decision to depend on God's strength, to depend on God's love, to depend on God's providence, and not simply to take that battle into our hands and make it about our strength and our capacity. So when you are in gratitude, when you're winning your victories through gratitude, prayer, and thanksgiving, it is very easy to stay in the correct place where your heart is in the right place with God. You're fully focused on Him. You're fully focused on His grace, His providence. Your heart is full of thanksgiving and gratitude, and you're focused on God's ability to provide for you and to win the victory for you. And that, in many ways, is perhaps the best place for Christians to be in and for Christians to fight in. However, the other option also does exist. If you are so inclined, you can start to focus. You can start to become very intense about an outcome that you want to see. Take it to God in prayer. Be intense. Focus. Pray. Again, give thanks and worship. But all the time you're very intense and you're very focused. You want to see something happening. And if you use that approach, what will happen, as I understand it, is that you can overcome that challenge, which is a rather large or unusual challenge, difficult challenge. Or if you have, for some reason, picked on a challenge that is not suitable for you, in my experience, God will simply tell you directly, you need to drop this. This particular challenge is not for you. But once again, please remember, if you try to use this method and you're slipping into doing it in your own strength, then don't use this method. Because doing it in our strength, in the human strength, is the norm. It's what people do. But as children of God, as children who have been born from above, that's not how we want to live. To start to do things in our own strength is to deny Christ, is to deny God's power flowing through us. And even if we look around us, and even if we see that people who are doing things in their own strength are more successful than those of us who are depending on God, don't let that disturb you. Our commitment to Jesus, our commitment to God, our commitment to living through His Spirit is more important than whether the wicked are succeeding or not. There is a psalm about this, I believe it's Psalm 37, where David says, don't pay attention. If you see the wicked people succeeding and you think the righteous people are not succeeding as much, don't pay attention to it. Let it go. Just delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. So St. Paul in the Bible does say, fight the good fight. These words could mean a lot of things, but the question we ask today is, does that mean that we need a battle spirit or a fighting spirit in our Christian walk? The answer to that is yes and no. And now, at the end of this short message, I hope you can appreciate why it is yes and why it is no, and select your preferred method of fighting your battles and winning your challenges. Remember that all things are possible through Him who loved us. And finally, faith and gratitude to Jesus, to our Father, living in the assurance of His sonship, of His providence, of His love. These are the most important things in life. So I hope these few words inspired some ideas or thoughts and may it help you with your Christian walk and in your challenges and your battles. Bless you all. Thank you. Amen.